Yes guys, how's it going? Welcome back to a new video. Hope you guys are all enjoying your bank holiday weekend. Bank holiday Sunday morning, cup of tea in hand. Looking forward to bank holiday Monday. Looking forward to the big game tomorrow night. 8 o'clock kickoff at St James's Park against Liverpool under the lights. It's going to be a big one. And if you're not subscribed, be sure to do so because I will be at the game tomorrow night. Previews, match reactions, reviews, and hopefully, it'll all be positive. We've got a good team. We have a good team. I think we showed it against Aston Villa. No denying that it will be an incredibly tough game. I think if we take anything from it, a draw, I think I will be a happy man at this point because we have no striker. We will be playing with Gordon up front, I should imagine. And we will talk a little bit about that game in this video. But it is the striker, once again, that dominates the headlines. But have Newcastle had a little bit of good news about that one this weekend? Reports are that the newest name linked to Newcastle United, Alexander Sorloth, the 29-year-old striker from Atletico Madrid, who had been linked at the back end of last week. Reports coming out this weekend that he has now requested to leave. Reports are that there is a full fallout between him and Simeone. Can Newcastle get a 30 million deal done and dusted in the next 7 days? Well, going off how we've done so far this summer, it would suggest maybe not, but we will talk about that in this video as well. Osula being linked out with the football club, and post-Liverpool game, reports coming out that with a week to go, Liverpool will come back and test Newcastle one more time on Alexander Isak. But yes, guys, as I say, hope you are enjoying the weekend. Looking forward to the big game tomorrow night. Let's start off with Osula. Interestingly enough, you would think that despite the fact that we have zero strikers, the thought of letting Osula leave would be a really strange one. But I will actually say that Osula himself has been a little bit of a strange one at Newcastle United. I think he came in with promise, but I would say that he hasn't. I would say maybe he hasn't really had the game time that he should have. Back end of last season, playing Wilson over and over again. He was never staying. He was always going to go. He was never going to sign a new deal. Why aren't we giving Osula a chance? Wilson did nothing more than I think what Osula could have achieved last season. So, a lot of talk to say that maybe this is his chance, but just for whatever reason, I just don't think Eddie Howe fancies him, to be honest. I just don't think he maybe sees what he'd hoped to see from him when he joined the football club. And links coming out, of all teams, Bayern Munich are interested in Osula on a loan deal this summer window. No. Short answer, Rob. No. Really can't see that happening. The squad's not deep enough. We've let players go. We have replaced. We've nowhere near brought in as many players as we'd hoped to. Isak currently out of the picture. Gordon, I think, is probably right to start ahead of Osula, but you've got to imagine that Osula will get more game time this season. He just doesn't appear to be disciplined enough. I think he comes on, he looks raw, he looks fiery, he brings energy, but he's just not doing like Eddie Howe's number one rule, which is stand here, stand there, run. If he runs there, run over there. The A to Z playbook of Eddie Howe formations, code word zebra, and everyone runs over here. Like, I just don't think that's Osula's bag. He just isn't anywhere near that disciplined, and because of that, he loses his opportunity. Will Osula succeed at Newcastle? I think that question could well be answered this season. He's still only young, 21, 22. But if you're good, you're good. What is it? You're good enough. You're old enough. And maybe it does just take a little bit more time. But him leaving, no. The only thing that caught my attention as much on this as well, Nicholas Jackson, a striker being linked to Newcastle United, being linked to Aston Villa, creating this little bit of a triangle, because I would ideally like Villa to buy Jackson so that we can buy Watkins. Bayern Munich are also interested, basically looking for some backup for Harry Kane, etc. I wouldn't loan Osula would I? If Osula went to allow the triangle for them, Villa to get Jackson, us to get Watkins, Bayern, so the Bayern pull out of the Jackson race. Yeah, little bit of a workaround on that one, but yeah, Osula being linked away, 7 days to go. Cannot see Eddie Howe allowing that to happen. But could Newcastle finally move on a striker this window? Because just listen to this one. 24, 48 hours and the Wizard deal will get done. Once again, every morning I wake up and it's 24 hours on the Wizard deal. The Brentford manager literally came out this weekend and said that he has no plans to sell Wizard. His words actually were, I'm going to butcher this, but I'll try and get close to it. He was like, in his eyes, he's going nowhere. Of anything, he owes me one, to be blunt. And essentially, it's because the Brentford manager used to be the set play coach for Brentford last season. And apparently he got him 8 goals from his set play workaround. So he's kind of saying, I got 8 of Wizard's 15 goals last season because of his set play formations, and that he believes he owes him one and has no plans to let him leave. Obviously, Brentford have started the season fairly horribly this season, especially when all 3 promoted clubs have already won a game. Brentford are going to be going, oh my God. And as I mentioned already, fair enough, Wizard might leave on a free at the end of next season. That's, 40 million loss to Brentford. But if they keep Wizard and they still get relegated, then they really screwed it. But if they lose Wizard and then get relegated, that would be like hundreds of millions for, maybe seasons to come where they can't get back to the Premier League. So you can see why they may be willing to take the 40 million risk on what could be like a serious pushback on the club. Not just this season's relegated, but if they don't come back up. And all of a sudden, oh my God, this pivotal moment where we sold our star striker, 15, 20 goals a season striker, and now we've been in the Championship for the next 10 years. So that's an over-dramatisation. But you never know. You really don't know. So I can see why they're getting worried. Strand Larsen, that lad didn't look like he wanted to be on the field for Wolves at the weekend. Once again, it's just so mad. It's just so messy. Isak pulling, doesn't want to be here. Wizard throwing toys out. You see Strand Larsen yesterday just didn't look particularly interested. Obviously, his name's been heavily mentioned. Wolves are saying, well, we want 60 million. Which I don't blame them for because it's the star striker. So Newcastle are looking at a different route. Newcastle are trying to look somewhere where someone is actually available and we can bring in on a more moderate fee. And that's where the links to Alexander Sorloth have come in. So as I mentioned, 29 years old, 30 in December. So, but I say that, Wiz has go about the same. And Watkins is the same. Fair enough, Larsen and Jackson are a little bit younger, but we're in this market now where essentially what I wanted and what the club clearly wanted with Ekitike, Sesko, like young players, upcoming players who will play for years, Delap, Pedro. We're at a place now where essentially we are looking for a player to come in and do a job. Just come in and do a job for a year. Even if Isak's here, if he goes and decides to down tools again, we can't be left without a striker. So we need to have someone available. But then when it's 60 million for a 1-year deal for Wizard, it's absolutely, I say 1 year, it'll be a 3-year deal, but you know what I mean. Next summer we can reevaluate. Alexander Sorloth, 30 million. Well, the amount I'm reading this morning is 25 million. Atletico paid 30 million for him. Reports are that Simeone and Atletico are happy to get their money back if it means letting them go. So he had a great season, as I mentioned already, essentially flopped at Palace about 7 or 8 years ago. As I say, is he doing a reverse Joselu? Because he flopped at us 5 or 6 years ago. Then at the age of 32, went to Real Madrid and won the Champions League. So it's easy to say, that he didn't do it in the Prem last time, but it's not to say that his career has definitely elevated since. had a great 2 good seasons in the Liga in a row. I think he's like in the top 15 top goal scorers last season across Europe or whatever. So he did well. And that was off the back of only playing a full 90 minutes twice. Every other game, he was either subbed off or subbed on. And essentially that is the breakdown at Atletico, and that's why he is reportedly this weekend asked to leave the football club. But it's fair enough he wants to go. We've had this before. Funnily enough, there's a few players doing that at the minute. The question mark is, can the deal get done? The only hope with this one is, and I would say it's similar to Jackson at Chelsea. Wizard, Brentford want a backup. Larson, Wolves want a backup. The people, Watkins, Aston Villa would want a backup. The thing is with Sorloth is Atletico Madrid have already got a few very good strikers. That's why he's not getting the game time in the first place. So essentially, if Newcastle moved, the hope would be that the deal could get done and that he would hopefully be up for it as well. I mean, even at this point, they're saying 25, 30 million. You know what it is? Just go in and pay 35, 40 at this point. Just go and pay the money. So they say yes, and a deal can get done quickly. The problem with Jackson is, once again, his is a little bit different. He has actively been in the Premier League, and I think did okay. I think Eddie Howe could probably make something of him, but Chelsea are wanting 60, 70 million. And that's the thing. We're not bringing Jackson in as our new, let's make him into a... Well, we could make him into a superstar. Who knows? You know, Eddie Howe, the man who turns water into wine. You know, there is a possibility there. But really, at this point, this late in the window, we are just looking for someone to come in and stand in the box. And I think to pay 30 million for that is fair. To pay 60, 70 million for someone who, you know, in a year... Because that's thinking in a year's time, if Sorloth doesn't work out, we can go and get that new striker for 70, 80 million next summer. And Sorloth can be what really he should have been in the first place, which is the Wilson replacement. If we go and spend 80 million on Jackson next summer, we can't do that again. So I think it makes sense to go and spend like that reasonable fee on a player who can be the Wilson replacement, and then we can work on a real Isak replacement next summer. If he's here. Because the reports are coming out to say that post-Liverpool on Monday night, Liverpool will try Newcastle again with another bid or a final bid. And I think it makes sense. It will be absolutely nuts if Liverpool have pushed Isak this hard, or Isak, or you know, who knows? Liverpool might just genuinely be not interested. You know, Slot's just chilling out in the back room, and Isak's agents on the stage doing a merry jig for everyone, saying, yes, Isak doesn't want to be here. And in reality, Liverpool really couldn't give her, you know. But you would suggest not. You would assume that the merry dance that Isak's agent is doing for everyone is because he's being fed the talk that Liverpool will go for Isak again. So I think it makes sense. I think Liverpool have probably held off on the hope that Newcastle would actually sort themselves out and actually go and buy a striker this summer, you know. How mad would that be? And bearing in mind, I know we've talked about bringing in Isak's replacement. We've known from before the window even started that we wanted a Wilson replacement, and we still haven't managed that. But, as I say, I think it only makes sense that Liverpool would, even if Newcastle haven't brought in a replacement, that they would come back and make a genuine go of it. Will it be the full 50 million? Probably not. I can see something like 130 plus 10, one of those situations. What Newcastle do, you can only assume that at this moment in time, Newcastle say no. The way Isak's behaved, the way the Saudis have reacted, the way Eddie Howe has reacted, I mean, it really adds up to the point that Newcastle just can't, or don't want to now, to save face as well, I think, to not be made like fools. We've spent 3 months saying no, and on 7 days to go, we lay down, had our backside smacked and went, yeah, whatever you want, take Isak away from us, you know? So I can see why Newcastle have stayed strong. I would argue that had Newcastle bought any of those people that I've discussed throughout this entire video, then maybe we would have let him go, even if it was for a little reduction on the 150. But I'll be interested to see what it is. The bigger thing, if Liverpool did offer 150 million for Isak, I think even without a striker brought in, I think it creates a real question of what we should do. Because you talk about PSR, you talk about value. 150 million is a hell of a lot of money. Do Newcastle take the risk on going until January if it means bringing in that kind of dosh? I mean, that would be a hell of a power move from PIF to say no to that. But I think a bid will come in. You can let me know if you think Newcastle would accept it or not in the comments. If you think Newcastle should make the move on the man who wants to leave Atletico, has reported to have asked Simeone to exit in the next 7 or 8 days. If you think Newcastle should push ahead and try and bring him in as, you know, that striker we've been trying to get all summer, even if he's not, you know, the world beater, the Isak replacement. It's a 6'4" Norwegian giant who will stand in the box and let Elanga and Gordon feed the ball in. You know, I think it could well be a good one if, as I say, Newcastle can do it. Is it 7 days? Was it 6? It's too early on the Sunday morning. Thanks for watching, guys. Drop a like if you want to see Sorloth at the club. Subscribe if you don't want to miss out on some of the videos from tomorrow night. I should imagine it will be a good one. At least until the final whistle, we'll find out the score. But thank you for watching. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll catch you later.